Welcome back, everybody, to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, and welcome back to the Stormbreaker report as we take a look at tropical conditions here across the Atlantic on June 10th through June 16th. And boy, do we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We were hinting last week about the possibility of something tropical developing in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's still possibly there, but it's kind of on the low risk, but its impact across Florida especially could be significant. I'll show you why here in a second. We're also going to talk about the warming waters out in the Gulf of Mexico. We've seen significant warming there in the last week, and I'll show you the latest sea surface temperatures there. And then we're also going to take a look at the tropical Atlantic, which is going to be dealing with some Saharan dust that's out there, really playing a big impact on the intertropical convergence zone. We'll take a look at the satellite imagery there in just a second. Now, if you would like to make this a regular feature in your YouTube feed, please, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, give me a thumbs up and tell me what you think with this report and let me know if there's something you'd like to see in it. All right, let's go ahead and take a look first at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies. So the big story here continues to be the fact that we're seeing abnormally warm waters, especially across the Atlantic and across the Gulf of Mexico. You can see that there with that kind of red, that orange kind of hue there running through that area. Obviously, we still got La Nina's influence here. That is the upwelling of cooling waters there across the Eastern Pacific. So we're in the La Nina phase. That means we're going to see the environment pretty conducive for the tropical development in the Atlantic because we're going to have reduced wind shear, and I got a chart to kind of show you that here in a second as well. So let's take a look right now at the ocean heat content. This is the main development area here. We're talking about between 10 and 20 degrees north and 85 to 20 degrees west. So as you see there, we're running pretty close to last year's levels right through here, but running above the average. That's that blue line you see right there. It's kind of more inducive of what we see, say, heading over toward August than we are seeing here toward the middle of June. So definitely running above normal with the ocean heat content that's available. Now, another measuring stick that we look out for development in the tropics is the amount of vertical wind shear. This is a good chart here. And one thing it's definitely showing me here is the fact that, yeah, the trend is downward as we head toward the summer months, but boy, it has really plummeted here over the last week or so. So I think that's some of the influences of La Nina. So we're seeing reduced wind shear across the majority of the Atlantic, not for the Gulf of Mexico. I'll show you that here in a second, but definitely seeing reduced wind shear. But that's not the only thing that's inhibiting development right now on the Atlantic. So let's take a look at that. So the latest satellite imagery here across the tropical Atlantic showing this very nice brown hue kind of stretching across the Atlantic. This is Saharan dust, a really good plume here showing up very nicely here on the visible satellite imagery. And this Saharan dust is an inhibiting factor when it comes to tropical development. One thing I have noticed compared to last week is we have a lot more tropical dust out there, and these tropical waves down here to the south really do appear to they've been taking a beating because of it on the periphery. I have another satellite imagery here to kind of illustrate this. This is kind of showing that dry air at the low and mid levels here, kind of blowing it off of the tropical areas of Africa. So with this plume of this Saharan dust in here, that's going to be inhibiting any of those tropical waves to the south, kind of getting beat back a little bit because of that dry air and that dry, hot dust. So the good news is that this will continue to be a factor. Bad news is that the forecast does trend for the Saharan dust to become less of a factor because those trade winds, which are blowing up out in the Atlantic, should begin to weaken, and that should allow the tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa to kind of hold their form as they traverse the Atlantic. So the latest here from the National Hurricane Center for the next couple of days is not calling for any tropical cyclone activity over the next 48 hours. Now, of course, we're talking about the areas of the Gulf of Mexico as well as the southeastern coast being our target zone. Climatologically speaking, the month of June, this is the hot areas, that area there in blue that we watch for tropical development. We were talking about that potential going into this upcoming week, but that may not be a factor as we go for the days ahead. And I'll explain why here in a second. One thing that has definitely changed significantly over the last week is the amount of how warm the water has gotten out here in the Gulf of Mexico. We're talking significant warming out here. You're seeing a lot of that pink kind of really filling in there. So we're talking water temperatures above 84 degrees. So we got plenty of warm water, plenty of fuel there. We got thunderstorms in the area in the Western Caribbean going into the Gulf of Mexico. It's forecast there. But we're dealing with one inhibition there, And that, my friends, is high winds. Remember, we were talking about wind shear. Although the wind shear on the average is low across the Atlantic, it is not true for the northern Gulf of Mexico here. So again, we're just taking a look at the American GFS model, the latest run here. We're only going to go out here for about a week or so. Your time to use in that top upper right-hand corner, and you notice the winds blowing in here across the northern Gulf. So we got some pretty decent winds that are blowing in here across the northern Gulf and then across Florida. So that is going to be an inhibiting factor because it doesn't allow the warm air to gather at the surface and evacuate out the top. Wind shear kind of blows thunderstorms off any low-level circulation through there, and that is forecasted to remain there here over the days ahead. In fact, it gets a little bit stronger. You see a little trough kind of digging through there as we go into this upcoming weekend. And again, the wind shear will be a factor, so it does not appear to be anything tropical that's going to be able to develop in that zone because of the higher wind shear. Now let's go ahead and switch on over here to the precipitation mode here as we kind of take a look at this here. Let me go switch over to this one here, in fact. All right, so we'll back this up here. And again, the areas of Florida, the Florida Peninsula, are really going to get pounded with some pretty heavy rains there. And that's my main concern here for the week ahead, is how much heavy rain falls into that area. Now, this model here, as we head into this upcoming weekend, does try to pull some of this moisture up toward the north as we go into Saturday and Sunday. You kind of see it there into the central Gulf of Mexico. Tries to show maybe a weak low pressure there. But again, I showed you the wind shear in that zone. Probably not conducive to getting development, but it will enhance the rain threat going into the southeast as we go into early next week. So looks like here for the next 7 days, still looking at some potential tropical disturbance out in the Atlantic. Where it goes exactly, still a little bit up in the air. As the reason why I'm saying that is because the WPC, as far as the rainfall totals, is not really enhancing the rain across the north central Gulf of Mexico, those states up that way. So let's take a look at the what's expected as far as precipitation. As you take a look at this chart here from the WPC, we're talking significant rains, heavy rains here across South Florida especially. So from Tampa to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Key West, some areas getting anywhere from 7 to 10 inches. But notice here across the northern Gulf of Mexico, we're not seeing a whole lot more for the interior there. Again, I think that's because exactly where that moisture may end up going is still a little bit up in the air. It could shift a little bit further to the west, it could shift to the east, so a little bit of uncertainty there. But what's for certain is it looks like South Florida is going to be inundated with some very, very heavy rains, and flooding potential will definitely be there as we go through the next 7 days. So the week ahead from June 10th to the 16th, not looking all that bad. We do have that one tropical disturbance to watch. It'll track through the central Gulf of Mexico. If it becomes tropical or not really will depend on the wind shear diminishing a little bit. But for right now, it doesn't appear to be anything imminent as far as tropical development is concerned out in the Gulf of Mexico as well as the tropical Atlantic for now. Because we definitely got plenty of warm water there. And once that Saharan dust begins to clear out in the Atlantic, we'll see conditions out there improve as well. All right, that'll do it for this report. Again, if you'd like to make this a normal feature in your YouTube feed, all you gotta do is please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. That way you get alerted when this pops up in your feed. Again, this will be a weekly update and as needed as we go through the upcoming tropical 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. That'll do it for now. You guys take it easy. We'll see you in the next report. Until then, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.